Good evening to our friends in Asia. Good morning to our friends in the United States. And welcome to the first in UCA's Coronavirus Initiative webinars, a series of 16 different seminars to help you get through these very challenging times. Please understand that we need to give you a new Zoom link every week because the times change in the U.S. Daylight Savings Time will begin on Sunday, and our seminars are on different days of the week. In the newsletters that will come out between these webinars, we will answer the questions you may have in terms of content from today's webinar, and we will introduce the next content for our next webinar, as well as give you a link so that you can watch this again or share this by recording for those people who cannot participate in today's session. At the end, if you want to know more about University Consultants of America, I will put up our email address. But today, this is really content to help you out. We have friends all around the world, and we know how difficult it must be. I can't imagine what it'd be like to have all of our schools and our businesses close and maybe even have to leave the country. So we feel for you, and we're doing this as a service to help you out. We're today talking about some issues that we have heard from our friends and our students, those who are out of school, whether that be in China or Korea or wherever at this point, Japan. We do know, for example, that other countries are preparing for school closures. I know this is true in Indonesia, and we're seeing new coronavirus cases everywhere. Florida just had a new case yesterday. Georgia had its first. This could be getting worse. It might also be getting better. We just don't know. So we're facing an unknown future. Let's see what we can do to make that unknown into something more positive. The two issues for today are online learning and stress. Let's first talk about online learning. What we are hearing from our families of students who are out of school and doing online content, they're worried it's inferior. It is not as good. They worry that seeing things online is not as good as being in the school. They worry that the teachers don't understand online learning. Don't worry. Slow down a little bit. First, let's talk about a classroom versus looking at a computer. The way you learn in a classroom, almost all the time, is through two different methods, your eyes and your ears. Teachers understand this as visual learning and auditory learning. There are very few times in a classroom where students are learning by doing, which is called kinesthetic learning, or even interacting. So if we understand that what happens in the classroom is basically absorbing through your eyes and your ears, let us now compare that to what's happening on a screen, for example, right now. Okay, right now you are hearing what I have to say, and you're listening and seeing me. In other words, auditory and visual learning, it's the same thing. It is true that from time to time, instructors are not quite as good at doing online learning in front of a camera. It takes a little practice, and sometimes it's maybe not quite as good. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes the focus is better. Sometimes the ability to pull things up on a screen and have you see it right there is better. But most of the time, it's not because of the format of online learning or because of the teachers in online learning. Most of the problem happens to be with the students. Because you're used to a different environment. You're used to an environment that has a lot of social aspect, other friends, people you can talk to, interactive. And frankly, as students get older, they become more extroverted. They go from more withdrawn to more interactive, more talkative. Energy goes up because of people. And frankly, when you're at home or in front of a computer, that often is gone. That much I get. So what do you do about it? You have lost the social aspect of school. Get it back. Contact your friends. Do a Zoom meeting, do a Skype meeting, do a WeChat, do WhatsApp. Reach out to your friends. Just because you're not all jammed together in what I call, and excuse the way I put this, but I call high school day prison. You're locked up together. Just because you're no longer locked into a room does not mean that you can't interact. So one thing that you're lacking is this feeling of social. You're also lacking the force of being in school for 7 hours. You are forced to be there. And you can come and go from your computer screen. But I want you to understand that the problem happens to be your focus. Truth is this. It is, for almost all of you, definitely for me, it is basically biologically or mentally impossible to focus for 7 hours. Yeah, we stick you in school for 7 hours and then some after that. And we expect you to be able to focus for 7 hours. The longest I ever focused was preparing for exams at Harvard, and I got up to 3 hours. You're not really focusing for 7 hours. And you're not going to be able to focus for 7 hours in front of a computer screen either. But I want you to turn your focus into your own focus on what's they're teaching. Because really with online learning, the problem isn't the teacher. The problem is the student. So for this moment, just look around this place that you are currently sitting. Look around your computer screen and look for distractions. Are there video games nearby? How about a phone? Things around the room that you are very comfortable around can be distractions. Even when you don't see them, you can feel them. So step number one to better online learning is to be better at online learning on your side. It's not what you're getting or not getting. It's whether you're getting it into your head. Take away the distractions. If you need to, take the computer into another room. If possible, go to a library, go to another place. Find a way so that you can focus and recognize you're not going to be focusing for 7 hours. It's okay. Little bits at a time. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever the lesson takes. Just do that. Give yourself a break. Quality of education has to do with your quality of paying attention. Now, to the extent that you're not getting great material out of your teachers, which does happen, why is that stopping you? Well, I want to tell you a story. This is a story of one of our students from a few years ago. He's in 12th grade right now and he's got some great offers. But in 9th grade, he was having problems in 2 classes. And one of the classes was Spanish class, foreign language. I said, what's the problem? He says, I'm not really good at foreign language, which me neither. I speak 2 languages, by the way. I can speak English and I can speak to a dog in any part of the world, but I've studied all kinds of languages. And Mandarin or Bahasa or Spanish or French, no, never happening. So I fell for it. I said, what's the problem in Spanish? He said, my teacher stinks. My teacher's not any good. And my response to that was, oh, that's not good. But that's your fault. My fault? How is it possibly my fault? I just told you. The teacher's no good. Yeah, I know. So do you. Look, if you're not getting great content from your school, find a way. You've still got the internet. There are amazing opportunities for education, whether that's through videos, whether that's through other sites. Trust me, it's out there. Just because you're not locked into your day prison of a high school or secondary school doesn't mean you cannot learn. We old people learn all the time. Find a way. So if you're not getting the content, don't let it ruin your life. Go get that content. Go learn. This is your life. In fact, everything we're saying today is for your benefit, much more than ours. So to the extent that you feel displaced, I agree. You are out of your normal environment. It is not happy. It is scary. It is weird. I understand. However, Educationally, wake-up call. It is not the end of the world. In fact, it's a transition to another world, to the world of adult learning. You have the chance to do a great job. The only question is, will you? Don't blame somebody else. Don't blame the coronavirus. Don't blame the teachers. Don't blame your schools. Don't blame your parents. In fact, just do well. You don't have to blame anybody. Find a way to focus, take away the distractions, recognize that you are still learning through your eyes and your ears. It's really not that much different, except you're not in a classroom with a bunch of friends. And by the way, the people you don't like aren't there either, so that could be considered a positive. But I digress. I just want you to understand you can do this. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Let's move on to topic number 2 now, and that is managing stress. Stress truth number 1. The world knows that your schools are closed. The world knows that the coronavirus is causing problems. The world knows that you're out of your normal places, that you can't do your normal things. And the colleges in the US and the universities around the world know this. They know you're all in the same place. Just because you're a little bit behind on a couple of things, not going to be the issue for them. Relax. They know. The world knows. I also want you to understand what really happens in our system, because if you understand things, well, you're going to have less stress, and if you have less stress, then you'll have a better performance. That's literally how it works every time. Certain things about stress you need to know, you already know. Eat right, exercise, get some sleep, be healthy. It helps take care of stress, but that's really not what I want you to understand. I want you to understand the US method. The US method of evaluating students is very, very, very different than the rest of the world. There are actually 2 methods. Those 2 methods are used, and I'm being general here, but the 2 methods are used by different schools in the US. One method you already understand, the second method you really don't. Let's talk about the one you understand. It is a numbers-based method. We call it threshold. What does this mean? It means that the schools are going to evaluate you based upon your grades and your test scores, either SAT or ACT. And by the way, we will have some professionals giving you some strategies and overviews about SAT or ACT. No, you don't have to take them both. And if you're an international student, we typically at UCA recommend you take the SAT because there's more time per question, and your American competition has been taking this test since grade 7. So you're at a disadvantage. SAT gives you a bit more advantage, but that's a testing question for another day. So the first method is a method used by public universities. They say they use a more holistic method, but the truth is they're going to sort you primarily as if it's a computer, and they're going to look at your grades and your test scores, and if you're above the line, you're in, below the line, you're out, and on the line, they look at some other stuff. They will say it's different, but that's how our public universities do things. That would be the UC schools, UCLA, Berkeley, Irvine, Davis. That would be UW, University of Washington. That would be University of Texas, University of Wisconsin-Madison. Any of our large public universities are primarily going to be using a system that you know, and that is that you take a test and you get some grades and they look at that. That's the public school method. The private school method is different, really different. This is why people don't do well. It's not because of prejudice against you, it's because you don't understand. And the truth is, the problems you're suffering from now because of coronavirus give you opportunities to do well in this system. Okay, let me explain what the private schools do. It is called the holistic system, and it starts with an entirely different primary job. The primary job of a big public university, which is the government, is to educate the people of the state. That's their job. It's the government, and the taxpayers pay for it. Okay, that means more. This is why most of our public universities are big. In the state of Florida, where we live, they're huge. 2 of the top 5 in the world come from where we live. In fact, my niece and nephew go to both of them. Who knew? The private schools are different. In fact, the private schools in America are older than America. Harvard, where I went to school, started in 1636. The United States of America started in 1776. That's 140 years later. In fact, Harvard's older than calculus. Look it up. So as a proposition, in America, we have great public universities, but we also have amazing private universities because that's how we developed. And the difference between the publics and privates is the government overseeing and controlling things. How is that different? As long as the private colleges do not violate our United States federal laws and things like discrimination, they can do whatever they want. And there are two things that kind of show you the similarities and differences between the private schools themselves. The first is that they disagree on how to give you the best possible education. With over 2,000 universities, and we recommend up to 300, they don't all agree on how to give you classes. Everything from a lot of required classes to what's called an open curriculum, where for 2 years, you take whatever you want. So the way we deliver classes is different, but the one thing that is in common amongst all of our private schools, the thing that is the same, is our private schools want to create the best possible education, and to do that, you have to utilize every resource, all the assets, everything you have comes together in education. Of the things on a campus, all the assets, all of the learning tools, the one that is the largest in both quality and quantity is you, the students. There are more students than there are professors. You will talk to each other more than you talk to professors. You will probably talk to each other much more than you even think about your academics. This is why our private schools try to keep all the students together so that you interact. This is why we look for people from all around the world. This is why we want people with different experiences, with different ideas, different philosophies. Because when you understand differences by interacting, you learn from the differences. One of the strongest parts of our education system is the way that the U.S. colleges, private schools, get everybody together to interact and learn from each other as well as the classroom. There are many assets on a college campus: the students, the professors, the classes, the laboratories, the museums. Incredible things. Your job to use this collection of assets, and it's their job to present them to you. Okay, why does that matter? It matters to the private colleges because they're trying to pick the right people to put together. So let's think of it this way. For the students who are watching, do you have any people in your high school or your secondary school? Are there any people in your school who are really smart but don't really talk to anybody? They like to study. They don't like to talk. They might be in the library or the laboratory or doing whatever all the time. Those kind of people may be smart, but they don't contribute. They don't give their ideas to other people because they don't talk to anybody. Is that the kind of person a U.S. college wants when they're looking for interaction? Really isn't. There are other types of kids in your school who are really smart, and they're kind of what we call jerks. People who are not nice. They could be bullies. They could be just rude. If you were an admissions person at a university, would you want that person on your campus with your students? See, what the U.S. private universities are looking for is contribution, not just qualification. They want to see what you give. Are you a catalyst or are you cancer? They want the good ones. And so when U.S. universities, particularly private schools, the top 25, if you will, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, whatever, they're looking for a person more than a resume. Oh, sure, you're qualified. 90% of you are qualified. The ones who aren't, sometimes they just want to try. Sometimes they just want to get rejected, and sometimes mom or dad makes them apply to these schools even though they know there's no chance. But 90% of you, 9 out of 10, can do the work. So they're looking for the people who contribute to the overall education. That's important so that you can actually see it, and I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to share my screen, and here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a form for Harvard interviews. It's actually the old form, but we like it because it's easier to explain. It is the best example of the private school, top school, holistic admissions method, and I'm going to show it to you. What we do is split each student into multiple pieces, multiple attributes. We give them a grade in each of those and kind of total them up. So I want to show you the evaluation just so you understand. It starts with academics. Of course it starts with academics. It's a school. And most of what they ask about is what we call objective, numbers. You can see test scores right here. If you happen to have your SAT score, you're already doing it right now. There will be a few other things they add. Subjective pieces like love of learning or intellectual curiosity, originality. The truth is this, as much as you may focus on academics, the US really does not. In fact, it was once said in a blog by a former MIT admissions person that they spend as much as 1/3 of 1 second looking at the academics. I think that's a little short. I would guess it's 15 seconds, maybe 30. The classes you take are the same classes everybody else takes. The universities have seen them before. They're very quickly going to take a look at what you did, how hard it is, how you did, and move on to the other factors. What are the other factors? The second factor is all the stuff you do outside of class. Harvard happens to use 5 terms. Apparently Harvard can't say activities. Anything you do outside of class that is not a classroom activity, it is not brain-based, it is not about knowledge, anything else, they will evaluate. And they have a scale. There's actually 4 factors. This just happens to be the way the Harvard scale works. By the way, Stanford is 1 to 9 instead of 1 to 6. Duke is 1 to 5. Yale is 9 to 1, and Georgetown, and I think it's the same. But it doesn't matter. They're just numbers. So they're going to give you a number in academics, number of extracurriculars, and they will also give you a number in what Harvard calls personal qualities. Dartmouth happens to call it character. Some of them don't call it anything. It doesn't matter. There is a human subjective side to the evaluation. Okay, let's take a look at the 3 rankings or descriptions that Harvard gives. Under personal qualities, you can see under number 1, 2, or 3 how they describe it, but let's just look at the 4 words at the end of each. Personal appeal and character. Personal appeal and character. Personal appeal and character. Ladies and gentlemen, having the same 4 words in 3 different grade scales means those 4 words are useless. They're the same 4 words. So all we have left is the word rare or strong, above average. If I were a dean of admissions, I would be very worried that those are not particularly helpful. But for your purposes, I want you to see something. There is no way that any of this can be graded by a computer. These are not objective things. They are subjective things, meaning human beings make the decisions on how this works. And why is this important? This is the way America evaluates, and there's a certain order to it. But the way we evaluate objective pieces like numbers or success or geography is very different than the way we evaluate subjective things like personality or passion. Humans tend to look at objective pieces like numbers mathematically, statistically, in a curve. You've heard of a curve. Some at the back, some at the front, a lot of people in the middle. It's a grading curve. However, For subjective pieces, we don't. For subjective pieces, it's all or nothing, black or white, what our president calls bimodal statistical distribution. The person looking at your file, and it's usually 2, 3, or 4 people, those people either like you or they don't care, or worse. That's the way it works. Why is that important to you? Because I want you to understand the target. And to the extent you're stressing that you can't get good grades, America's really not that excited about it in our private schools. Our public schools, yes, obviously. And as a professional and as an adult, kids get good grades, do well on SAT. But between that, I know a lot of people are worried about SAT because I know in China, SATs have been canceled, and one wonders what will happen. What you may not see as an international student, when you look at cancellations and concerns about coronavirus, you may not see that SAT has added a new international test date in August. We are so happy about that, not just for your class, but for every class, because so many of our international students don't even take the SAT until October of grade 12. So here's the thing. You only need one good one. You can still study even if you can't go to a class. You can still do well. And you actually have a better test date coming up in August than the ones that might have been canceled. Would we rather have a perfect score now? Sure. But perfect scores don't work. Stanford rejects 90% of the perfect scores. 9 out of 10, gone. Why? Because our applications have a lot of pieces that are subjective. They have essays. Everybody knows about American essays. They have recommendation letters, reports from your school, interview reports. None of those can be graded by computer. All of those are graded by humans. So why is that important? Let's take Stanford as an example. Stanford has 12 essays, plus 2 recommendation letters at a minimum, a report from your school, and an interview report. That is 16 different written pieces. And they're all read after they look at your grades and your test scores. After you read 16 pieces, which are either great or not so great, the test scores aren't that important. It's the person that's important. So get good grades, get good test scores. But let's start looking at the other things. Now, the good news is of those other things, your recommendation letters haven't happened yet, your essays haven't happened yet, your interviews haven't happened yet. We have time. You're okay. We will have some seminars, some webinars explaining how these things work. Certainly we're around as a service, but you're going to get the information for free. Let's talk now about extracurriculars. Next week, our president, Bill Watson Canning, will spend an entire webinar on extracurriculars. But we hear so much, I can't do my extracurriculars because my school is closed. Really? That's your problem. Okay, if you're the president of your school and you think you're a natural born leader, are you trying to help everybody when they're out of school? Are you getting everybody together? Are you sending your own messages instead of just waiting for what the school's going to say? What are you doing? Whether you're an elected official or just somebody who never runs for office, what are you doing to help everybody? You see, the American point of view is this. One of the things we want to see in your extracurriculars is that you make an impact. Not that you just go to school and absorb things. Not that you just catch a ball, but you learn how to throw it, that you make an impact somewhere. School is just one somewhere. There's a small somewhere. We want to see you make an impact around the world. If you're worried about what's happening in your school, then you're not paying attention to the rest of the world. What's going on in the rest of the world? Are you making a difference outside of your school, outside of your country, across the globe? Because you can. You know you're competing against people all around the world. You are competing against people who will be in the Olympics in 2020. Just high school stuff? Not enough. You need high school stuff, but you need to do more. And now that high school stuff is not in front of you, maybe you won't focus on it quite so much. Maybe you will realize that you can do more. Maybe you can realize we want to see you do more. Because making an impact on the world, well, that's a good thing. And you can. You may not think so, You may not think you can go very far because of coronavirus, because you don't drive a car. Yeah, that's not true. You can go very far. You might want to write this one down. It's called the internet. Perhaps you've heard of the internet. We are talking around the globe right now. What can you do? What kinds of things can you do to make a difference? Have you been blinded by the things that school has been feeding you and not trying to do something amazing? Because here's the thing. I will leave you with one question. It's a two-part question. Here's the question. I know you're worried about coronavirus. I know you're worried about school being closed. I know you're worried about all kinds of things that you just don't understand, and the future is unknown. I understand. But here's the question. Do you want to be great? Really world-changingly great? Making a difference? Because if you do, here's part two. When do you want to start? That's today. Now. Right now, you can start doing amazing things. The only real question is whether you will. We want to support that. Why do we want to support that? Because for every adult on this call, whether it's me or Bill or Chaplain or Millie, your parents, every person on this call is here for the students. We want the best for the students. In my case, I'm too old to change the world, but the students are not. I want to see it. We're waiting for it. We're not smarter than you, but we are more experienced. And we're not necessarily good at everything. We want you to change the world. We want you to do amazing things. In fact, that's one of the core philosophies of UCA. Yes, our job is to help you get you in the best universities. It's not our goal. Our goal is to actually succeed at school and in life. And that's why we're doing the coronavirus initiative, because I cannot stand to see you not knowing what to do. We want you to do well. When you win the Nobel Prize, maybe give us a shout out in the acceptance speech. Mom and Dad come first, always. But we want you to do amazing things. So the question becomes, will you? We're here to help. Now, for those who want to know more, let me give you our information, because that's kind of what I'm supposed to do. I thank you for listening. We do have some questions. Our next webinar will be next Wednesday. We'll send you out information in a newsletter, and in that newsletter we will answer some of the questions that have come up online. We will talk more about extracurriculars. And again, if you wish to know more about UCA, you know how to contact us. But for now, have a good night, have a good morning, have a successful life. Let's do this. I appreciate you paying attention. Best of luck to all, and I look forward to it. Thank you very much.